Welcome back to another week of The Rebel's Edge. Back down here in Puerto Rico, and Pete's coming to us from somewhere frozen, I'm sure. And meanwhile, it's 85 and sunny down here, just saying. But we've got the 411 on what's going on with the market today. We're opening down big, turned around. Are we holding on to the gain? We'll have the 411 for you on today's Rebel's Edge.
Tell you what, you do have better weather, but I will say this, John, it's absolutely gorgeous here in Minnesota. I think feels like -5 or something like that. Maybe it's 5. I don't know. It doesn't really matter once you get underneath 10 degrees, but it's a new couple inches of snow, pure white. It's absolutely beautiful, and the sun is blazing today. I mean, unreal. So it's reflecting off of I had to shut all my shades just to be able to keep the sun in, man. Or out there rather, but beautiful day here. I'll tell you what, we had a great conference. I'm sorry you weren't able to do it, John, but it was really a lot of fun. It really went well, and we didn't have great weather down there, but you know what? We're down there to have people learn more about the markets and everything anyway. So I think they did, and I think they had a good time. But it was, I guess low 60s with fairly gray. Yeah. And when you're in Miami, that actually feels cool, even for me, to be honest with you.
Well, the thing Prince, our friend, our classmate at Central High in Minneapolis, folks, what he always said about the cold was it keeps the bad people away. Well, I don't know if it keeps them away anymore, Pete, from what I've been seeing in the news. A lot of crazy people and a lot of bad people.
Yeah, you're right.
Up there in Minnesota, so you can have them.
We're going to start sending them down in buses somewhere.
They ain't coming down to Puerto Rico, I'll tell you that. Not in buses. All right, let's get started with today's Rebel's Edge. We'll kick it off with macro. There's always something to say in the macro sense, Pete, and today I think it's about big rebound. Global equity markets were, we're worried because of that big sell-off in gold, silver, and Bitcoin on Friday. And U.S. monetary policy, if we've got, and we don't just if, we do have a nomination of Kevin Warsh as Fed chairman. And I'm sure that sticks right in the craw of one Jay Powell. But what do you got for macro today, Pete?
Yeah, I'll tell you, John, I think it's really interesting. We talk about this being, earnings season, and some of the big names, each and every week, it just gets to be more and more. Then it'll start to slow down, but we're only a few weeks into this thing, but we've still got Amazon, we've still got Google, we still have AMD, we still have Qualcomm. I mean, there's some big names out there that are very much influencing the direction of the market oftentimes. So I find that pretty interesting. And I know we're going to dig deeper into this, but the president's strategic stockpile for rare earths, I think, is a pretty interesting deal as well. And is that maybe helping the markets a little bit? I think that if you put all these things together, yeah, is the answer. And by the way, the earnings that we have been getting, John, and I know you were over in Europe and all that stuff, and we did talk about it, but these numbers are getting crushed again. Everybody's such a bear about everything, but the reality is, take a look at what some of these beats look like on earnings, on revenue, on outlook, on this and that. Now, it doesn't mean every single one. I'm not saying it's every single one, but we've seen some pretty daggone solid earnings already, and I think we're in for more of those as the week goes on.
Well, maybe that's why the VIX made such a bounce as well, Pete, because the VIX was up to almost 20 again in the pre-market today. And then fell all the way back below 17. Where do you got it now, Pete?
Yeah, I'm showing it at 1650, John. So what was the rate? We were talking about the range for a while, 15.5, 16.5. Well, we're at the upper end of that range because we were up at 20 for about 30 seconds, just about 20, and it dropped. And then it started dropping and continued to drop. And then here we are. We find ourselves at 1650-ish or whatever. But interesting to see how fast that's been moving today. I mean, in the first hour and change or whatever, we had a pretty significant drop in the VIX. And I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, all you've got to do is say, okay, at a 16 VIX, what does that mean? What does it say to us that we're going to move percentage-wise on the S&P? And it's about 1%. Well, we've moved about 0.5% so far today. So I would say it's getting closer to accurate, but we might get into 16 and then maybe even drop into the 15s, John. So we'll see how it all plays out.
All right. Well, let's take a look at the prediction markets, Pete, because when you and I did the prediction markets for the government shutdown last time, they were predicting at least a 15-day government shutdown. Well, now that we're in 2026 and the Democrats understand that a prolonged government shutdown would probably hurt them pretty badly at the midterm election turn here, Pete. The predictions right now are 4 days. Well, 99% of the money says, yeah, we'll go at least 4 days. But a maximum of 6 days, it gets down to 30% that quick, Pete. So in other words, they're saying there's going to be a government shutdown, 99% chance, but it's not going to go 30 some odd days like last time. It might be very short. And if it is, I think the reason, Pete, is exactly the midterm elections in November.
Yeah, I think that these are actually very, very accurate, makes a lot of sense. And it does mean a lot. I think the fact that you're looking at those numbers right in front of you, and these are what they're coming up with, that 99% of a little over 4 days, that makes sense to me, John. I mean, it's too bad that we even have to get onto this subject of the government shutdown, but nonetheless, we do. So this is how I think you can embrace that and say, all right, you know what, this does make a heck of a lot of sense. And I think that from a betting perspective, that's probably about as accurate as it gets.
Yep, I like it a lot better than polls, Pete, because polls are just opinions. When people put their money where their mouth is, yes, it's an opinion, but they're putting some skin in the game. They're putting their money where their mouth is. And that's why I like a lot of these prediction events better than I like polling, where who knows where they pulled these zeros from for some of these polls. And I'm talking about both sides.
Right.
All right. Let's talk about critical minerals, Pete. Let's talk about USAR. Let's talk about the president laying out his plan for a critical mineral stockpile, pretty much exactly like the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, where we have a stockpile of rare earth elements like lithium, cobalt, manganese, and so forth, nickel, that basically go into defense products as well as EVs and batteries and so forth for all manner of things, Pete, not just electric vehicles. And I think this is a big deal. And you know what? We had plenty of unusual activity in USAR, Pete. USAR, USA Rare Earth. So the president's already made investments in some of these, like MP materials and so forth. He's also really looking at this rare earth reserve, if you will, Pete. And look at this one. It was $15.85. It's $10 higher than that now. $10. So just put it in perspective, folks. If you would have put 1,000 share bet on this one at $15.85, congratulations, you made 10 grand. If, on the other hand, you bought 1,000 shares worth of the options, which would only be a 10 lot, you would have invested based on that price you see on the screen of $1.10. That means that's $110 per option, or $1,100 for that 10 lot that represents 1,000 shares. And it's worth at least 5 times that right now. 5 times. So you didn't make 5 times your money on that 1,000 share investment, Pete, but for $1,100, you've got about a $6,000 profit right now in that trade.
It's why it's not an option.
Not an option.
I don't know where I heard that, but I heard that somewhere, John.
Yep,
you know what?
Me too.
You're right about these rare earths. I mean, this just disruption with supply and all the rest of that we talk about. And the fact that obviously, the Chinese basically got somewhere between 80 and 90%. So I think that the president's doing the right thing to try to make sure that the supply is there and do what they're doing. And like you said, this is graphite, this is cobalt, this is gallium. This is all of these different things, and they go into everything from smartphones to batteries to jet engines to defense systems to you name it, the EV world, all of that. So I think it's a really good move that what we're doing to try to fight off all of this and make sure that this is something that doesn't get that disruption. But you can understand why these stocks are jumping the way they are. And by the way, this critical metals, this CRML, this has been an absolute monster as well. We've had a lot of call buying in this one over time. This thing has made some pretty nice moves to the upside at times. So the critical metals, I think, are a big deal. The rare earths, obviously, an extremely big deal. And I like what's been happening in that space. And we've seen a lot of unusual option activity in that space.
Yep. Well, and I think you and Mark down at the event, Pete, might have been talking about it. I can't remember which one of these you were, but I know from a bunch of feedback that we got from customers that you guys were covering some of the unusual activity and what might be happening in the near future because of that. Full disclosure, folks, Mark and I are both on the board of and have pretty significant investments in M2I, which is a rare earth play, and they're all about the strategic mineral reserve. So more on that coming up, folks. All right, Pete, let's talk about OPRA, OPRA, because Trade and Hire, it's a browser and an AI agent company, and they expect Q4 revenue to exceed $170 million. Now, the prior guidance was 162 to 165, so it's above that. Shares were popping pretty big in the pre-market, Pete, and they just kept going. This is a Norway-based company, right?
Yep. They're really interesting, John. When you look at the full year revenue numbers that they're putting up there, their expectations over 600 million, up 26% from 2024. These are really massive numbers. I mean, when you see something like that and you see, where they stand, where they are, and you see the numbers that are going up there in terms of the percentages of where their stock is going. I mean, they raised the guidance. Everywhere you look, this is a pretty daggone strong stock. And you know what? Have you missed it? I would say no. I still am a believer in specific parts of the AI world. And I think that there's a little bit more room even to the top. But that being said, we are getting a monstrous move today. So I don't think you chase it at this point in time. But what they were putting up and what their revenue looks like, really, really impressive. And the guidance was just as strong as anything I've seen in quite a long time. So got to like what they're doing, and I think that they're doing it right. And this is one of those names I think you ought to write down on a pad of paper.
Well, what about this one, Pete? Disney. I'm going to go over some brief stuff, but I know Pete's going to have a lot of thoughts about the higher costs, and that's worrying investors. Experiences were great, whether that's on a cruise ship, whether that's theme parks or nights in their hotels that they own, all of that stuff. 4 stars, great. But I think I remember you saying, Pete, something about a little deal that ESPN, a Disney company, cut with the NBA that's not exactly bearing any fruit. And instead, it's probably getting some people who signed that deal with the NBA pretty nervous about where their next job might be.
Yeah. Oh, you're right about that. And we were critical right out of the gate. I mean, it's not like we waited. The second we saw these numbers of what they were paying for the NBA, John, it is not the NFL. I mean, they can twist it any way they want, but it's not the NFL. And I think that's a huge problem that they face now because that's a longer term contract, and that's got to make those guys squirm just a little bit. I mean, the biggest complaint right now out of Disney, John, starts with the idea that the costs continue to go up. Well, we can point to where those costs are. And one of the biggest ones certainly is that TV contract with the NBA. Huge mistake to put that kind of money there, John. All they have to do, I mean, how difficult is this? Take a look at what those ratings really look like. And, LeBron James could say all he wants about, hey, it's our place on Christmas Day. Well, actually, it's not, because the NFL absolutely destroys the NBA on Christmas Day. So, yeah, you can take that in your pipe and smoke it, LeBron. The reality is, yes, NBA has a following, but do they have the kind of following that the NFL does? Absolutely not. They don't. And yet they gave them a contract, John, that is absolutely outrageous. So they're paying the price for that right now. I mean, when you look at things, the experience, like you said, that's up big, $10 billion, 6% revenue, it's up. And then you look over at the entertainment side, 7%, the revenue is up 7%, another $11 billion. That's great, which just shows you when they have to bring up the fact of the costs are outrageous. Well, they've got the revenue, but sometimes you got to look at all sides of the ledger. And the ledger tells me that these guys are having to pay way too much, and they have, and that's going to be a problem. And that's the reason that the stock at least started the day down 7% or something close to that.
Yep, it was down and then up. It recovered all of that downward movement, folks, and then went and rolled over again. And I'm not saying Disney's not a great company. They're a great brand too, but they've been making some pretty serious mistakes. I think the competitors will outbid them for in Amazon or Netflix or any of the new competitors, the streamers, to for carrying the NBA. And I think they way overpaid for it. Yep. And they better get somebody in there who's a little better with arithmetic, as they say, Pete. Reading, writing, and arithmetic, the 3 R's. Better get somebody who's good in that arithmetic stuff over at Disney.
And John, right. I'll just say real quick, this isn't like Monday morning quarterbacks either. We said this when they signed it. We said that. We looked at it and we said, way too much money. You can't pay that kind of money for the NBA with the ratings that they've got. And they've either stalled or dropped. I mean, it's one of those things where I don't know what they were thinking. I think they clearly overpaid, and now they're paying the price for that right now over at Disney. And like you said, it doesn't mean that makes them a terrible company. Shoot, look at some of the numbers. They're doing really well in other areas, but there's a few heads that should roll based upon what kind of contracts they gave on that sports side, specifically the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, and with the NBA, if the NFL rested players, Pete, the way the NBA does, I mean, at the end of the season, you might have a game where people don't play all their best players. Players miraculously have a twisted ankle or something that's not like the Bo Nix broken ankle, right. But they might have a little something here or there to keep them from going on the field in that last game when they're heading into the playoffs. But this load management that the NBA does, people are just like, I'm sick of this crap. I'll post it for you tomorrow, Pete. I saw one of LeBron taking a shot from center court from the logo, and he basically jumps up in the air from the logo and tries to it came up 10 feet short of the hoop. And it's like, oh man, retire. Go into the old folks' home. You're just embarrassing yourself at this point. But anyway, all right. Let's take a look, Pete, at what's going on with one more stock, and then we'll jump into the sports for real. Sure. Ethereum, the ETHU is the ETF, exchange traded fund, that tracks what Ethereum does, not Bitcoin, Ethereum. And when you see sell-offs like we've seen, Pete, where you might see a 15 or a 17% sell-off in one day, first of all, some people will say, well, that's why you don't trade digital assets. Oh, really? So take a look. What did silver do? What did gold do? Didn't they drop by that same amount that day?
20+%.
Yep. But would you just dump out of those because it made a big turn like that? Probably not. But they'll use it as an excuse for why they want to get out of digital assets. I think this is creating an opportunity, Pete. I'm not saying a one-day bounce, but I'm saying we could see a nice base being built around the levels that Bitcoin, silver, and gold got down to. And by the way, as Todd, one of our wealth managers in Aspen for Rebellion Wealth, was telling me, he said, if you look at silver and gold, they're still up a lot from a month ago.
Yeah, they are. Well, when you're up, in the case of silver, you're up, what, almost 200% or whatever the number might be. And you lose 20%, yeah, you're still up 180%. I mean, that's not so bad. Back to this whole thing, John, one of the other issues I think is that, there was a lot of investment that was chasing. And we see that type of thing happen all the time. And now, in some cases, some of these guys are getting into that position of forced liquidation. So, you have to deal, they're having to deal with that right now. And that's a big deal. 200,000 traders' accounts were blown out, supposedly, recently. And, all of these things are the reasons why, when we look at this and you wonder, why is Bitcoin, and I know we're talking about Ethereum, but why is Bitcoin at 75,000? And why is, ETHU down 22%? Well, they've made some great moves to the upside. They also make some moves to the downside, but there's a lot of guys, John, that are getting some forced selling going on. And that obviously is one of those things where you're just sitting there almost waiting for that to end, because when it does, that's when the bell rings, and that's when you say, you know what, it might be time to maybe take a little bit of a fishing expedition there and maybe go in for a little bit. But I'd still like to see if there's any more getting squeezed out of that whole thing, because a lot of people were going in there leveraged and liquidated now. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yep. Well, at this segment of the show, we usually lead in with a video, and today we have a video. And Jared's queuing it up right now, folks. I think you guys are going to get a kick out of this one. Ole Miss tampering with Clemson's linebacker, which was previously Cal's linebacker. Apparently, Pete, Cal can't hold on to any of their good players. Look at Mendoza. Look at this linebacker. Let's give this a look and a listen.
If you need any more proof how broken college football and the transfer portal is, listen to what happened to Cal's linebacker Luke Farrelly. So he was the ACC Defensive Rookie of the Year this past season. With that accolade, being at Cal, he's obviously going to hit the portal, right? Go to a bigger school, maybe sign a big NIL. So that's what he does, and signs with Clemson over a week ago. He's all set. He's on campus, attending classes, team meetings, and workouts the past week. Now he's getting high six figures in this NIL deal from Clemson, but given his potential, other schools still wanted to sign him for more money. Like Ole Miss. Ole Miss actually offered him a supposed $1 million deal after he was already on Clemson's campus. That's tampering. So Farrelly reported it to Clemson, showing them proof of text. Clemson, who's thinking this is BS, confronts Ole Miss's head coach Pete Golding about it. And instead of Golding playing dumb or backing off the situation, no, he goes and doubles his offer to Farrelly. Farrelly sees that huge number and he's like, dude, how do I not take that? So he ghosts Clemson staff and officially announces he's re-entering the portal to flip his commitment to Ole Miss. The debate here obviously is Farrelly never actually signed an agreement with the football program, just paperwork with his school scholarship, which doesn't tie him in. But like when you enroll in school, you should be no longer able to enter the portal, right? It's a lawless land out there. And it's amazing how college ball is turned into one giant auction house. I can't blame the players. I get it. You want your bag, but still, it is wild. If you need any more proof how broken college...
Yep.
John, it's amazing, man. I mean, you and I have talked about it. We've been on this thing. We've been doing this, podcast, if you will, for I don't know a couple of years now. And we've talked about how this is going to end someday. And it's not that it's ending, but certainly we are seeing things that are coming in front of us. And it's crazy. And you and I were both kind of snickering about the word tampering there. I know you see it differently. I kind of throw in tampering a little bit. I mean, the kid, now he hadn't signed yet. So you're right. They can do whatever they want. But let's be honest. The kid just left Cal. He comes to Clemson. He's part of the team. He signs up. He's going to be in school. He's got his scholarship. And all of a sudden he hears, hey, somebody might pay me a little bit more. Well, I haven't gotten paid yet. So what the hell? I'm in. I mean, at some point, and here's a question for you, because this is similar to a situation that's going on with the Duke quarterback. I mean, some of these guys are going to different schools, and then all of a sudden they get an offer from somebody else for more money. Can't help it. I mean, it's one of those things where you just wish that there was a way that they could fix this a little bit better. But this whole world of tampering and this whole world of NIL and the whole world of portal have really got to be looked at by somebody. I mean, there's got to be some kind of a regulatory thing where, you and I decide we're going to go to Cal, but what if we purposely sit there for a couple of weeks in our dorm room, John, going, let's not sign yet. What if somebody else comes along? We could jump on that. I mean, I don't know. This whole thing has gotten crazy, and I do think there's got to be something that I don't know who's going to do it. Does the NCAA even have any power anymore? Or who do you go to make sure that things are being done the right way? Because I don't know if it feels like that's the right way right now.
Well, and I agree with you wholeheartedly on all of that. But from a marketing standpoint, would we be talking at all about college football a couple weeks after the national championship game with Indiana winning out over Miami? The answer is no.
You're right.
We would not. Maybe we'd spend one day, Pete, because, this kid had a great Senior Bowl. Or, this quarterback from Minnesota State Moorhead Dragons, because he looks like Josh Allen.
Yeah.
He looks like Josh Allen on steroids, this kid from up there in Minnesota, Pete. Minnesota State Moorhead.
Yep.
The Dragons. Well, the kid's 6'5" and 245 pounds, and he is rocked out, Pete. That guy looks more like a middle linebacker than he looks like a quarterback, but he threw for a lot of yards. He has a cannon for an arm, and he was, I think, either runner-up or second runner-up for the equivalent of the Heisman for D2.
D2.
I mean, the kid is a monster.
Yeah.
So outside of things like that, and until we do the combine, we wouldn't be talking about college football. So I think they've accidentally stumbled into something that keeps college football more relevant year round, just like the NFL has found ways to do that. So if you're talking about getting a bigger TV contract when you're the NCAA, Pete, or whether you're the SEC, Big Ten Network, or whatever, this ain't a bad way to do it because it's in the news every day.
Well, and to that point, I will jump there because that's where I wanted to go next is, hey, the Senior Bowl just happened, right? I mean, they had their time, and that one's a really unique bowl game, John. I mean, most of the bowl games are always, I was invited to the Japan Bowl, the Hula Bowl, the Senior Bowl, and blah, blah, blah. I ended up going to the Japan Bowl. Our coaches were the head coach from Iowa, Hayden Fry, and Mike White from Illinois, right? So college coaches, bunch of former college players getting together before you're actually going into the NFL, and it's a really a reward at the end of the year to be one of those guys or whatever invited to those things. The Senior Bowl is a different deal. That's pro coaching. They're putting guys in positions where they can actually see you live. This is not a combine, but it might as well be a football combine because these guys are doing pass rush drills, offensive tackle against defensive end, edge rusher, all that kind of stuff. They're doing all those things in this Senior Bowl. Well, who really kind of shot up even more than wherever they were? I'll give you a couple of them, John, because I actually did watch some of the highlights of this crazy stuff, and some of these guys are unreal. The number one guy I saw is this TJ Parker from Clemson. 6'3", 265-pound kid, edge rusher, absolute unbelievable strength, great job of bending his knees and getting low, and his speed off the edge is incredible. And then you've got Malachi Fields from Notre Dame, a wide receiver, pretty unbelievable. Kalen Black from Indiana. We already all saw Indiana all year long. Well, this is one of the running backs. Tell you what, you watch the way those running backs leaned and put themselves into a great position to really pretty much never lose yards and pretty much gain more yards than they should have sometimes. I mean, unbelievable. There's one other kid I got to point out, though. Caleb Banks. He's from Florida. 6'6", 330 pounds. The guy absolutely dominated every player that he went up against. And I had quite a few friends down there that are part of the guys who actually go to these places, film them, write all the notes down, and they get paid to do that for a living. And they're the scouts for various teams in the NFL. That kid was the guy that everybody talked about. I mean, as much as TJ Parker, they kind of knew about TJ Parker, but they came up with this Caleb Banks, and they're like, wow, you got a guy 6'6", 330 pounds who nobody wants to go up against on the offensive line because he's got a little bit more speed probably than every one of those offensive linemen, as big as he is. And you know what? That becomes a big deal. So I think it's pretty cool what they're doing. And it is the last thing until the combine that we're going to really see as far as college football. But there's some guys who really stood up. How about Texas Tech? If you put together one school where I saw amazing talent, John, it's Texas Tech. I mean, I'm looking at these guys. They had a guy, defensive tackle, Lee Hunter. They got a wide receiver, Reggie Virgil. But then they've got the kid that everybody just keeps raising higher and higher, that linebacker, Rodriguez. I guess they all said to me, every single one of the guys I talked to said instinct and range. This kid can do it all. And I'm like, all right, I guess this guy's going to be the first linebacker in the draft. And unless you call a linebacker an edge guy, yeah, this guy's going to be the first linebacker in the class because he's a guy who really has unbelievable talent. And Texas Tech, how they didn't get further with the best offense pretty much and the best defense pretty much in all of college football, John, and they didn't get all the way into the finals or anything, that's still surprising to me.
Yeah, well, and that Lee Hunter, Pete, at a pro measured 6'4", 330 from Texas Tech, he's a good reason why Rodriguez gets to roam the way he does.
You're right.
No, that's not to take anything away from Rodriguez. To give Pete credit, if you would have had a couple really big defensive tackles in front of you, you might still be playing in the NFL. But, to have guys that are 330, that are fast and strong in front of a linebacker who's great, because Rodriguez is great. And that Lee Hunter, again, Texas Tech, like Pete said, same team. That gives him the room to be able to get sideline to sideline and or to get straight up into where the running back's coming into the hole. I think that's a big deal. I'll throw one more out to you, Pete, because you took all of my guys, unfortunately, from the Senior Bowl. No, that's all right. I got one for you still. Zion Young.
Yep.
I think it's pronounced Zion, but Zion. He looked good. MVP level, and in at least 80% of his plays, when that kid, he's a rush end from, or an edge guy from Missouri. And when you see him play, again, it shows how Missouri has become one of the places. I don't know with NIL how they're going to compete as well as they've competed up till this point, but Missouri is an up and coming, place that just puts out pro athletes every single year. And this kid, Zion Young's one of them, Pete.
Yep, those guys are special. Last thing I'll say, John, I've had a lucky week and a half or so in my life because I was able to hang out with Tom Osborne, one of the best coaches, I think, in the history of college football. And by the way, did not jump from Nebraska to Oklahoma to USC to UCLA. You know where he coached? Nebraska. And he coached men into becoming men in the real world, not just the football world. And I'll tell you, I have never met a guy from Nebraska yet where I didn't say, wow, that guy is an unbelievable person who's got a lot of great qualities about him and all the rest of it. I mean, it's truly amazing. And he's one, and he's 89 years old. You know who else is 89 years old? Lou Holtz. And unfortunately was put into hospice just a couple of days ago. I actually had the opportunity to sit down and talk with him and just tell him how influential he was, how he took care of so many guys over so many years. And he did go to Notre Dame. We wish we would have had him at Minnesota, but you know what? Happy for him that he went to Notre Dame. I really always was. I never was negative about the whole thing. I understand it completely. He's a Catholic guy who is a football coach forever. And, he had the opportunity, and that was the one place he wanted to go. And he had a great experience there. They won a national title in '88. And the only thing that I regret is had he stayed at Minnesota, I think we'd have been in the Rose Bowl in maybe a year or two after. So that was the only thing. But those two guys are great. Lou was doing fantastic when I saw him, John, but nonetheless, he is in hospice. So he's, he probably is putting on a little bit of a show that he feels better than he really does. But two just magnificent guys. And we talked about you and Dave and Paul and all the Nigerian linebackers and everything. But those guys, I'll tell you, special guys. And I don't know that those type of coaches even hardly exist anymore. With the way they move around and how they do things and having to deal with the things that they do now with NIL and obviously the portal. Different world, but boy, two special guys that I was lucky enough to spend a little bit of time with in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and a lot of time, Pete was the only 2-year captain, folks, in Lou Holtz's entire coaching career. That's still true, right, Pete?
Yep, as far as I know.
Yep. Well, heck of a guy. we're not saying goodbye yet.
Nope.
And hopefully he gets as much time as the good Lord gives him.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining us, folks. It's always great to talk about stocks and jocks. That used to be a show that Pete and I used to do. This part of the show, we always love talking about sports. So we hope all of you like it as well. And we will be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. for another exciting Rebel's Edge. Thanks for joining us.